I understand that game. I can play that. Right. And so that's where I was like, shoot, man, I'm sitting here as a teacher trying to help this kid. I'm trying to help this kid. I'm being told this kid needs algebra when he really needs to be told, like, hey, it's not okay to sell drugs. I'm being told that this person right. It's like school is the answer. I'm like, I don't think so. Education seems to be the answer, but this person needs a different thing than this person does. So I started to wrestle with that. Where did schooling come from? And as I started to ask that question, I didn't love the answers that I was finding. Again, amazing humans who pushed it forward, and some that I think are less altruistic. And so what ended up happening was a system that I just think is more about controlling a population than it is liberating a population. So to me, schooling is really more about that confined, everybody does this one thing and the government's going to tell you exactly what to do, when to do it, and really create this foundation of habits of you need to look to somebody else because your life is not your own. And I think education is quite the opposite. Your life is your own.
School as a method of behavioral management.
Yes, sir. That's I think more than anything else are the habits that I'm most concerned about with schooling.
Yeah. And so, and I know that, you've said this a lot because I've heard you speak a lot. But probably most of the people listening to this, a lot of my listeners are hunters.
Sure.
I don't know how much of how much they're paying attention to education outside of these things, other than, hey, my kid, and doing the right thing for their kid, which is one of the reasons I thought this was such an important conversation. Just briefly touch on how we ended up with this model that we have, this conveyor belt model of school.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important for people to recognize it's easy, when you say, hey, this is what it's meant to do. And then the immediate default for a lot of people is to, have this kind of this eye towards it of, oh, come on, like that's a little bit of a conspiracy theory, right? But when you really look at the history around it, it's very, very interesting.
It is interesting. That's what I want people to look at. And I always tell people when I talk about this, I give two caveats. One, I am a huge fan of good people working in a system, even though it's a system I don't love. I'm very critical of the schooling system, but it doesn't mean I'm critical of all the people in it or the people that send their kids to it. I get like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan of good human beings, period. I
Yes.
want you to make a decision that you want to make. I also understand that a lot of times people think they're making a decision or making a choice when they're really just reacting and doing something by default. You just send your kids to the local school. Like, what is there to decide? And that's what I'm like, hey, well, hold on. There is a decision to make. And here you need as much information as you can to make the decision. Right. So that's where I go. And again, good people, I want good people in that system because there are some young people, they're never going to see better humans than the adults that they see who really care about them in these schools. So I want good people there. So I always make that caveat known. And I also make it known that to really get the history for my money, people need to read the work of John Taylor Gatto, Gatto. Go read his work. He's far more articulate and far more knowledgeable. He's passed a few years ago, but his work lives on. People need to read that. If what I say sounds even remotely interesting and makes you curious, go read his stuff. And so it is a Prussian model. People hear Russian when I say that. It's Prussian, like German. It was a Prussian design. And to the best of my knowledge, it was really something that originated because of people starting to think for themselves and push back against governmental mandates in a number of different ways, specifically in the Napoleonic Wars, and had some soldiers that weren't wanting to listen to what was going on. And it was like, shoot, how do we get them to just obey orders?